Hi, Keith Espinosa. Today I'm going to talk to you about Module 4, Environmental Scanning, Understanding, and Opportunity. We're going to talk about the Marriott Millennial Hotel along with the virology article and Coca-Cola's startup think tank essentially that we were given as readings in class. And whenever I looked at this assignment, I really saw it through the lens of the customer and the value proposition. So that environmental scanning that you're doing, you're trying to identify your customer base, and then also how am I going to create a product for them that's going to solve their needs and elicit the appropriate emotions that's talked about a lot in the virology article. So really the first set is with the customer, and I really think the thing there is the needs and emotional drivers. So what are the needs of our customer set? And the two readings that really touched on this, number one, Coca-Cola. They're attempting, like outside of their own business construct, to bring these startups in to their business, show them what they have on their floor, and see how they can interface with those new businesses, essentially through strategic partnership, to allow them to be successful, then also grow the Coke brand. And what they really felt that they offered or brought to the table was scale. And of course, Coca-Cola, the largest beverage company in the world, an incredible amount of scale that they can offer to a small business. I think what was interesting about that article, though, is that it seemed like they had a lot of uncertainty about the businesses that they were working with and what they were actually going to bring to the table for Coca-Cola. And that's something that's very difficult, especially whenever you start trying to evaluate a customer. They're evaluating a different type of customer, those small business owners that are trying to get the wheels running. How is that going to create value for me as Coca-Cola? And that really comes down to the sampling of the customer that we've talked about throughout this course. And if you've taken any other entrepreneurial classes or business classes in general, you'll talk about customer sampling. So great ideas can equal a big flop if there's no customer need. We can have all these great ideas about how we're going to do things or change the world or wonderful product, but if customers don't see the need, maybe we're approaching it too much from an engineering perspective, we're going to have a lot of difficulty there. So really what you're looking for is, hey, how do I create a product that's going to elicit strong emotional activation in my targeted customer setup? And that gets you to that value proposition. And what you have to look at, I've identified my marketplace for the customer like Coca-Cola did, or like Marriott has with millennials. And there's some other businesses that are attempting to target millennials now as that generation grows and is now becoming larger than the baby boomers, essentially. You have to decide if the product that I'm offering is a projection of false needs or is it a realization of truth data. And I think that's especially apparent in the Marriott video that we watched for class. You watch the reporters go back and forth in that video about what is Marriott providing. They're providing trimmed down services to an extent, but the automatic check-in as you walk in with your cellular phone. I know I went to a symposium a few years ago, and a gentleman that was in the technology field in Europe, I can't remember his name at the moment, but he was talking about the future of the service industry, and really that automation was his big sticking point. So whenever you walk into that Marriott Millennial Hotel, I'm sure you'll have check-in, and then whenever you walk into your room, you're talking about probably a system that remembers preferences, sets lighting, puts on music that it knows that you like. But the problem with that is, and the posturing of that millennial hotel is, and this was identified by the reporters as well, am I now closing off other potential segments of the customer populace? Am I getting rid of the boomers? I no longer have room service. I don't have breakfast in the morning for individuals, and maybe I have a very minimally manned front desk. Am I cutting too much of my customer base out of the equation? And then again, am I really identifying the needs of millennials? Yes, millennials want to have that quick catered to approach, walking in and not having to have that face-to-face conversation with the receptionist. I myself I'm on the very beginning of millennials. I didn't grow up with a cell phone or iPad or a computer. I was born in '86, but I still very much understand that, growing up, whenever those things, really came to fruition, whenever I was in middle school and high school, it really drives you in that direction. Another business that's doing a very similar thing is Whole Foods, and this is an article a video I posted for additional reading with their 365, kind of their flagship supermarket model for millennials. Just expedited checkout, Wi-Fi. They're going to have a very techno feel to those 365s that they're just now beginning to put across the country. And I think all of those articles kind of drive you to the virology article, and then what is that minimum viable product that will elicit a viral following. We always talk about how are we going to get people to take up, if you have a first generation technology like the iPad whenever it came out, all of your tablets that were coming out, or even before that whenever we're talking about the iPod, how do I get people to latch on to that technology in that first generation? It's very difficult. I need that viral following. So what I need to achieve is emotional activation and a perception of personalization for the customer. And this is difficult in a lot of businesses, but I think whenever you really dig down into that virology article, they're doing some great things. They're not creating any product, but they are figuring out what drives the customer, and they're pulling them in with that viral marketing or just that making things go viral. And I think that concept applies in the business world with products as well, especially. So how are they doing that? It's that customer sampling. So that viral content, the product adoption, trend analysis, and predictive algorithms is essentially the staple there at that business. And there's a lot of buzzword, there's a lot of buzz about the article, but I think that's really what it breaks down to, is how do I predict what my customers need? And their product truly is just the headline. They're taking all of their data from other websites, other created content, and they're just putting headlines out there to try to make it go viral, and then that selective sampling from their customer base to figure out what is that perfect headline to incite that viral following. So really what we get down to here is how do you sample your customer base as effectively as possible? And I think the word virus that's an exceptional term whenever you think about what a virus does. If I can make my marketing impact viral in nature for a product or for a service, that is worthy. We saw the timeline of how product adoption is just ramping up, and it's almost become viral in nature for a lot of things, especially in the tech industry. And I would like everybody to read the Harvard Business Review article that I've posted. It's essentially a study on the emotions that elicit viral following. So how are you going to apply that to your product? So the things that they found were that incited viral following was curiosity, surprise, astonishment, and admiration. So if I can create astonishment about a product, people are going to be curious about it. They're going to want to get their hands on it. You can see that in products like the Segway. Whenever that came out, obviously it's a little bit cost prohibitive for everybody to have a Segway, but whenever it came on the market, everyone was so interested in it because it was something new. It astonished me, I know, the first time I saw it. And it's been the same thing with many of the Apple products that we've seen. And just that virality that can be achieved. So whenever you're looking at your value proposition, is the product you're providing, is it flexible and evolving? And whenever you target that audience, make sure you're eliciting the appropriate emotions. To me, those were my biggest takeaways from Module 4. Whenever you're looking at environmental scanning, you're looking at that customer and the value proposition. And whenever I'm evaluating those customer needs, really what I need to see is whenever I meet those needs, do I trigger the correct emotional response in that customer to maximize the value to them and to myself? If I can make them be a proponent of the product they've just bought from me, I can, what the HBR article talks about is I have a viral coefficient of greater than 1. If they go out and talk to more than one person about that product that they just received, that they just think it astonishes, it blows their mind, then I've latched on to a winner. Hope you enjoyed this environmental scanning module 4. You guys have a good day.